Tell me what your life was like before you died.
My own birth was very challenging. So my mom was 3 weeks late with me. I didn't want to be born. I did not want to be born. So when I was on the other side, I had this experience of what's called a pop-in. So I remember my mom being pregnant, seeing her pregnant, and then deciding if I even wanted to come into this life. And that was my very first experience. So in here in present time, it was a 3-week delay. So I was late by 3 weeks. And when I had the experience on the other side, that was the awareness of, I don't even know if I want to do this. My mom had had a miscarriage before me and a miscarriage after me. I was also almost another, because I didn't want to be born, to be quite honest with you. And so it was this constant thing of, so at 3 years old, of remember, I'm excited. No, not time yet. Go back, like it's okay. And then went through life and this whole experience, and then had the full on NDE. And that was the kick back into gear. So at 3 years old, knowing that I had seen the tilma in Mexico City at the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe. I'm named after. And that was by design, because my mama said that, if I was to be born safe, she would name me after her. So I carry her name and had that experience. But it was always this deep, profound knowing, but there was something more. Something wasn't quite right. That there was just something that I couldn't put my hands on, my fingers on, and I wanted to go home, missing of something. And then I went through and I denied this inner knowing. I went in a path of, the picket fence, the marriage, the 2 kids, the animal, getting the job, denying all this spirit side. And that was the big kick. So it's like the universe with these subtle voices of going in a specific direction that I was resisting, which is everything that I am now. And then I had that massive experience, and I can honestly say now that I am so thankful that I came back. I'm so excited about what I'm here and sharing and being able to express. So it's pretty exciting. So all the way back then was more soul purpose and a remembering and an excitement to just hold on, it's going to get tough. And then the other one was get back into gear. You're not doing what you said you were going to do. Let's do this. At 3.5, I had a pop out with my son. Mine are always intrinsically tied with, seems, birth and death. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I had a scat heart attack this past October, on October 3rd to be exact. And that was what I'm calling a 5th dimension, like inner healing, where the first near-death experience is like I wasn't taken anywhere like traveling, although it felt like a sense of floating. It was more like a consuming in the room. But this other one was like not even going into another location. It was like literally brought to me. So that happened on the day that my daughter was born. It happened 3 hours after her birth. And not because of the birth. Because my pregnancies were so difficult, I ended up with a condition called HELP in both of them. It has to do with elevated enzymes and platelets and all kinds of things. It's life-threatening. The only way to cure it is delivery of the baby. My first child was born 10 weeks early. My second was about 3 weeks early. So I was induced, and they said there's no way that you can have another child. So I planned to have a tubal ligation. They kept the catheter in my back, and I had an epidural, with no complications during her birth. And with that same catheter remained, they gave me a spinal block, and that stopped my heart, stopped my lungs. And as they were wheeling me out of the birthing room to go into the operating room. And so they had to full on resuscitate me. So they had to intubate me, breathe with the bag, and they actually had to resuscitate my heart. And this was not anesthesia. This was not to be put under. I was supposed to be entirely awake, alert, and just numb from, that point of the spinal block down, just so that I wouldn't feel the pain. Well, I had a reaction to it, and I was out for approximately 8 minutes. On the other side, that seemed like an infinite time. I still feel like, I don't know how to explain it quite fully, because I still feel like I straddle. I'm still partially there, which we all are. That's a lot to explain, but I'm very aware of my full-on presence there. So that was my biggest one. And that, with 8 minutes on the other side, that's when I had the biggest. That was the one that sent me into, oh my goodness, what is this? How do I resettle and acclimate back into life? And that was the biggest one. So the very first thing is that consumption of whiteness. It was, again, like a floating feeling, but it was this immersion into this pure energy, pure crystal, like the light of a million suns that didn't burn my eyes. It was an energy. The very first thing that I saw was La Virgen, the Blessed Mother. And I know that has to do with my belief and my upbringing and all of this. Secondly, I saw intertwined hearts of the Sacred Heart with the Blessed Heart, which is also Jesus. And then past and beyond them, I saw like this pinpoint of energy, this light that I knew, what I now call the God center of the universe. I had this experience with them. I have not shared a lot of those communications up to this point, but a profound experience. And because I did not want to return, it was an entire process of working with a multitude of beings, a total of 4 different groups. Part of it what had to do with healing and being taken to like a healing temple. Part of it was a life review to understand what I was experiencing so that I could understand it. It was intricate, like a technology on the most incredible. It's a soul technology that we've lost. So I was exposed to that. And then there was also like working with a group and a council to be able to, how do I apply this when I get back? How do I do these things? What happened? And so there was all of these different processes. And the 4th group was about seeing what I'm now knowing as a valley of souls. I'm calling it a valley of souls. So it's our soul group that is here now on the earth plane. So a field of flowers, being shown that that's what we are, that how we're intricately attuned. Every possible color that you could think of, so a sea of reds and blues and every color of the spectrum that represented every single soul, and every color of red that you could possibly think of, so unique. Then I was shown things about the universe, our earth, what we are. And then lastly, after all of that, feeling like I had enough to be able to understand and come back, fulfill my purpose that I felt at 3.5 years old, that excitement to come back, and have enough of understanding and be able to be here. So that was the entire process. At the very end, I found myself kind of where I began, in this consumed white space with the Blessed Mother. And at this moment, she was holding my daughter that I had just had hours old. And I had to notice that my mom was standing next to her. My mom was alive. My mom was present at the birth. And the Blessed Mother kissed my daughter, handed my daughter to my mom. And it was that awareness of, oh my God, I had a child. I can't leave her motherless on the day that she's born. And it was not like this angelic separation with this beautiful like healing thing. It was like an instantaneous panic of, oh my God, I had a child. So it felt like I crash landed back into my body, falling 10 stories, and I felt every single bit of the pain. I was still intubated, and it felt like I was being buried alive. I couldn't move whatsoever, and just one single tear. And I remember someone cradling my head and whispering into my ear, "It's going to be okay." I thought it was a nurse, but I now think it to be, that angelic God energy, and crash landed back, and had a long recovery after that. So after the very first one was really about more of like a healing. It was a 2-part thing. So these two kind of interacted intermittently, and this was probably the primary activity at the beginning. After that full experience with the Blessed Mother and all of that, it's like being transported when the location moves, but yet I would simultaneously move. There would be like one particular being always with me through every single group. And it was as though there was one particular being that would somehow separate into 3, kind of like separated. I don't know how to fully explain it, but very specific tasks. The first one was about reviewing what was going on, what was my life event, the traumas that I had experienced, the abuses that I had gone through. Like everybody, I've gone through abuses, and even as a child, what happened to us? What is that pain that we carry? So it was a process of not like, look what you did. It was more of, let's look at the life. Let's see how these things happened. It would be, it was a platform of which I stood, and it was like this technology where a span of infinite pixels, if you would, I could like stretch it out, fast forward, find a time, be able to pull it up on this, like what looked like a book at the time. Again, mind you, it's 22 years ago, way before Harry Potter, right before the movies and moving, images and stuff like that. But that's what I saw. I had no reference of this prior to that time. So it was like a moving, living book. And then I could cast it up on a screen and then actually interact and see. But it became something more where it was like interactive and holographic. I had one of the most horrific experiences, and I was like interjected into it again. But then I could also switch roles with the other individual to understand what were they experiencing, what was the decisions, what made them up. So this entire immersive process, and one of them was so overwhelming that from then I would be into this healing, like taken to like a healing temple. I would be immersed in what I'm calling like this effort effervescent, most pure life force energy. It would like deatomize and kind of just cleanse and purify the experience. And because I was still with the human experience while still soul experience, when we're there on the other side, all of this makes total sense. But I was still in that half space, knowing that this is what we go through after we pass. How do we acclimate and receive all that information through our awareness and apply it? So it was about understanding the painful things I'd gone through, and then healing, receiving the healing and the cleansing of it in this, what I'm calling the healing temple, like a pool of the purest life force, like a reset, if you would. And so this kind of happened several times. And after these two occurrences, then it was more of working with a council, and again, it was always seemed like 4 different groups of 4. One was always with me. So it would be but these prime, and I know that they were all together, and I know that they each serve as my full council. So the next thing was sitting with all of them. But there was always a group of that primary with really working, what is it that I set up in my life's agreement? What was it that my purpose is? What did I choose? How did this actually happen? What am I going back into? Now that's the catch. What am I going back into? And understanding those pieces. So I was able to see spirit family. So there is spirit family, so that we actually do incarnate with, but that's entirely different. I did have some other engagements, but it was primarily just working with this wise council, what I call the wise council, but it's exactly that. Different names, same thing, that we each have, a group and that we all work with, and then technology and this understanding, we're not left alone to it. The hardest part is that, Earth plane is, we have to abide by the rules. And what governs this is this amnesic experience for our seeking. I know I'm kind of skipping ahead, but that's understanding that I was given at the time. What we are. Why does this happen? What are the experiences? And so it was definitely that wise counsel. I had an experience as a child with hypnotherapy in preparation for surgery, and I was always fascinated by it. So I pursued hypnotherapy. Well, I went to the Hypnotherapy Academy of America, and part of my training was receiving all of this. Well, there was an experience where we are doing past life regressions, okay? And every single person in my group had a present, pretty near past, recent history experience. When it came to me, and the question through that experience is, go to the lifetime that is most impacting your reason for being in this lifetime. And what I saw was myself in this ship. There was a blue glowing light. Okay, go to the next event. What am I looking at? I'm looking at the planet ahead of me. Okay, when is this? 30,000 years ago. Where are you now? Go next. I am in this arid area. They're like, okay, look at yourself. They're like, how big are you? I'm like 14 feet tall. And I'm loving the people. And I see myself in that 300 span of 300 years in an arid area and on a humid area. And that we were in a sea of people in this place that I would liken similar to Washington, D.C., of the mall, where there was hundreds of thousands of people that I'm hovering above, and we're looking at this alignment. And I recognize that there are some of us that have been on this planet here to help and aid for this thing that is occurring. When I say that there's a soul technology, it is a technology, and something has occurred on the planet within our recent history that has actually trapped a lot of souls here on the planet in this reincarnation process. And so why is it happening now? Well, 2 things. One, that it was shown that we are actually traversing in the sector of the universe in something that is extraordinary and unlike anything we've experienced before. So if you can imagine that we are hurling through space at an unfathomable speed, and that we are a part of a cluster of galaxies that is living, breathing, vibrating energy. We're going from a 55-mile zone, headed onto an on-ramp of a freeway, 75 miles an hour. Our galaxy is transitioning. We're getting extra energy from the sun, which is also there's a network of communication throughout the entire universe, and it is being fully transmitted onto us right now. People are awakening like no other. So most of us are awakening. The people that are awakening to this are now discovering, I know who I am. I remember where I'm from. I know what I'm here to do. And here on a mission so that we can share that, because what we are has been taken from us. We have this incredible power within us that has been hijacked. We are so powerful, and it is happening on the planet now so that we can awaken and learn and discover all of that. That's why now, New Earth is now. We are the ones making it. where, and the choice is up to us where we're going to land. May we know that we are all in this together, that no matter how difficult it may be, that we actually can be, that there is something else. And just knowing that the greater part of ourself is safe at home and that we can tap into it, that we don't have to feel so alone. We do have help in life, and that there is always hope. May that hope be like a seed that grows to be like that field of flowers that I saw.